Intermittent fasting is the holy grail of fat loss for women over 40. Or is it? Well, I'm going to break it down in this video whether it actually works for fat loss in women over 40. Hello fam, and welcome to my channel. My name's Melissa Neal, and this channel is all about helping you, if you're a woman over 40 or like me over 50, get in fantastic shape. And one of the methods that has been touted for many years now and has grown hugely in popularity, and that's intermittent fasting. And I actually tried it myself. I've looked at the studies, I've written a blog about it. I'm going to explore what other weight loss experts over 40 say about it, so let's get into it. I'm going to give you the pros and cons of intermittent fasting, but first of all, let me outline what I'm looking at. So I'm looking at intermittent fasting as a method for weight loss. I'm not talking about whether it's got health benefits. I'm not talking about whether it makes you more alert. I'm simply talking about whether it works for fat loss, whether it works for weight loss in women over 40. So first of all, what is intermittent fasting? Intermittent fasting is when you have extended periods of fasting where you are not eating, and typically it's usually 12 hours or more where you're kind of having a fasting what's called window, and the only nutrition you're taking in is generally water and tea and coffee, kind of without milk, that kind of thing. You can fast for 12 hours, you can fast for 16 hours. 16/8 is really popular. That's when you fast for 16 hours and you have an 8-hour window, but you can fast for 24 hours. Some people fast for 48 hours. So it just really depends, but you're gonna have a certain time of day, and usually part of that is while you're sleeping when you're actually fasting. Now, intermittent fasting has actually been touted as a really effective weight loss method for the whole of the population, be it men or women of any age. And there is a school of thought that actually says that it's really beneficial for women over 40. And this is what Dr. Mary Haver says about it.
If you're a woman in midlife, I've got 7 reasons why you should consider time-restricted feeding or intermittent fasting as part of your health plan. I'm Dr. Mary Claire Haver, board-certified OBGYN and culinary medicine specialist. These are evidence-based findings specifically done on females in perimenopause or menopause. Number 1, intermittent fasting improves weight loss. Number 2, intermittent fasting improves belly fat or visceral fat. Number 3, intermittent fasting decreases cortisol levels. Number 4, intermittent fasting improves glucose intolerance. Number 5, intermittent fasting protects against age-related memory decline. Number 6, intermittent fasting improves liver function. Number 7, intermittent fasting improves your lipid profile and cholesterol levels.
On the other hand, this is what Geeta Sidrup says, who is actually an over 40 and perimenopause weight loss coach.
There's a link between perimenopause, intermittent fasting, and stress fat. And here's what the link is. When you first start intermittent fasting, and for as long as you want to do it, it works as long as, because you're eating less, you're in calorie deficit. It works as long as your body doesn't find it stressful. But then comes perimenopause. And perimenopause is the biggest scientifically proven metabolic upheaval for the female body. So you go through this metabolic upheaval, and what can happen to many, many, many people, no matter what you're told, is that intermittent fasting becomes stressful for the body. The minute it becomes stressful for your body, you will start to gain weight from eating zero, nothing. You can diet, you can be on a liquid diet, everything you want. You will gain weight. At that stage, it's stress fat, and you must stop intermittent fasting.
And this is what my good friend Lynn Verney says about intermittent fasting for women over 40. She is an over 40 weight loss and lifestyle coach.
So you're doing lots of fasting, but you're not getting the results that you expect. In fact, the more you fast, the more your weight's going up, you're getting belly fat, and that menopause belly, what is that about? And yet you're reading all the amazing benefits of fasting, and it is amazing. However, in our 40s and our 50s, things often don't work in the same way, because what fasting does is three things. First of all, it raises our cortisol, and that causes us to pack on belly fat, which is the dangerous kind. Secondly, it causes us to slow down, and our body wants to go into hibernation, thinking we need a big sleep. And thirdly, it slows down our metabolism, which makes it all even worse. So what's the answer? Very simple. Stop fasting.
So what's the truth of intermittent fasting? Well, the truth is it probably lies somewhere in the middle of those two schools of thought. So it works for some women over 40, but not absolutely everyone. And actually, there's a significant number of women that it doesn't work for. So it's really confusing, right? And if you're one of those women that intermittent fasting really works for, I am so happy for you. But I have to say that it doesn't work for everyone, and that's including me, because I actually did it for 18 months and I didn't find it an effective weight loss method at all. And I'm going to talk about why later in this video. And I do believe the women over 40 that are actually having success with intermittent fasting, many of the studies show that there's no difference between intermittent fasting and actually being in a calorie deficit when it comes to weight loss. And the reason women are experiencing success with intermittent fasting is because it's actually putting them into a calorie deficit, and because they're only eating in a specific window, it helps them to control their calories, so they're actually eating less. And that's the reason why it works, because for some people who find it really difficult to control their food intake, it does work, but for not absolutely everyone. And I'm going to go into this in a bit, and I'm going to talk about who should do intermittent fasting and how you should do intermittent fasting and who shouldn't do it and why. So maybe you're one of those women that isn't getting results for intermittent fasting, or you've been doing intermittent fasting successfully and all of a sudden it doesn't work. And those two groups of people I get contacted by, a great deal, or that you leave comments and messages, and this is really common. And I find I get just as many women that tell me it doesn't work as women that it does work for. So that's important to know, that if it's not working for you, that is completely common. It didn't work for me, and I tell you the reason why. I was doing intermittent fasting during perimenopause. I actually found it quite stressful, and I had periods of kind of extreme hunger, and I believe it raised my cortisol levels, and I actually got stress fat. I didn't put on weight, but I didn't successfully lose weight. And the other big problem is I was actually strength training on an empty stomach. You're not going to get the benefits of strength training if you actually don't fuel your body correctly before working out. And I don't care if you have to work out at 5 a.m. in the morning. If you're doing that on an empty stomach, like I did, you are not going to get the benefit of strength training. It's really going to affect your performance in the gym. And so much so, I would say that when I started fueling my body on the advice of a coach, I actually started taking in carbohydrate and protein before strength training, which you can actually do in the form of a drink if you don't want to actually eat anything. But I eat something no matter what time of day it is. I noticed a marked increase in my performance and my actual strength, the kind of weight I could lift, the intensity of my workouts got better, and I saw really incredible results quite quickly by moving away from intermittent fasting and fueling my body correctly to work out in the morning. So if you do strength training in the morning and you're doing it on an empty stomach, that is really not going to work. I'm now going to talk about when I think you can do intermittent fasting, but you don't have to do it. And if it's not working for you, I'd advise you drop it. it, and I'm going to talk about when to avoid intermittent fasting. So if you're the type of person where you don't like breakfast and you don't want to eat breakfast, you're a really good candidate then for doing 12 hours of fasting, aren't you, or more, because you may not eat until lunchtime. You're going to break your fast, because that's what breakfast is, breaking your fast. You're naturally going to do it later in the day. So if that's you, then don't feel you have to have breakfast unless you work out in the morning, but you might want to switch your training schedule so you're actually working out later in the day when you've actually eaten. If you kind of like it and it fits in with your lifestyle and you find it a really useful way of controlling your eating, by all means do it. But if you don't see results from it, don't continue. There's no point, is there? I'm going to talk about the times not to do intermittent fasting. And one of the problems that I actually had with it, found it a bit stressful, got quite hungry. And the other thing was, when I did get to eat, I actually found that I was overeating. So intermittent fasting doesn't suit you. If you're that type of person where you have these extended periods of fasting and then when you get to eat you're going to overeat, it's probably not for you. It's probably better for you to spread your meals through the day. And it's the same if you get raised cortisol levels. Now you're maybe not going to know, but the sign is that you're not having success, and you might actually be putting more fat on and more fat around your midsection, which I found when I did intermittent fasting, I retained fat around my midsection. If that's you, that's a sign that you're probably getting raised cortisol levels, which might be the time around perimenopause. The other candidate that isn't good for intermittent fasting is if you work out in the morning and you're strength training on an empty stomach. Intermittent fasting isn't going to be for you, because you need to be making sure you fuel your body with carbohydrate and possibly protein before you work out. And you don't want to do what I did, which was starve myself for 5 hours after training. You actually want to get some fuel in as well, 1 hour or a maximum of 2 hours after training, because that's going to give you a huge benefit from strength training. And it's actually really hard for women over 40 to put on muscle. So you need to fuel your body correctly if you're going to get the full benefit of strength training. The other thing that I don't like particularly for women over 40, and I've come across this, I've had women approach me for coaching that aren't seeing success with this. Really long extended periods of fasting, 24 hours or more, because if you do that, you're going to be really low on calories, potentially you're going to be nutrient deficient, and also it's going to affect your metabolism. So your metabolism is going to get slowed down because you're literally not getting enough calories in your body. And when you're over 40, you don't want to do anything that actually slows your metabolism down. So that's where I agree with Lynn Fernie that talked about that it can actually slow your metabolism down if you do these 24-hour fasts, because it's going to slow your metabolism down because your body is going to think you need fewer calories to survive. What I would say to you about intermittent fasting, and the key message is, it's actually not about when you eat. That's not important. So some people say don't eat after 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. That piece of information has been blown out of the water as well, by the way. It's not so important when you eat when it comes to fat loss. It's actually more important what you eat. So, if you're intermittent fasting, you can't just eat what you like. You still need to pay attention to your protein, carbohydrates and fats. I've got a free nutrition guide, which I'm going to link in the description, that takes you through exactly how to eat. When you're thinking about nutrition over 40, think about what you eat and not when you eat.